Hello, everyone. Happy Thursday. Hope you all are doing super amazing. It's Margo Master, your heartfelt CFO, and I am so excited to be here live with you. When I don't come on live, it's like I feel like I'm like in this different type of world behind the computer, taking care of things and, doing all of the things. Um, I am really, really looking forward to today's live. Lots of times I come on and I'm talking about education and sharing a lot of the topics, a lot of our clients and followings are asking. And every so often, I like to bring in a success story. You can see and hear live how people have transformed and they really take the skills of around, their own business, accounting and tax, make it their own. So I'm excited to welcome our guest. How are you, Powell?
I'm doing well. How are you today?
Good. Want to tell everybody about yourself?
Yeah, so I'm running a couple of businesses. I have a real estate business and an electrical service construction business.
Awesome. So when we met him, I think it was, I don't know, several months ago, um, it was interesting because it was almost like a typical client for us that what happens is that in the account, actually, I'm going to take this a different direction because I really want everyone to understand this of what's in the accounting industry
Oh,
so that you could learn and implement this quicker for you and not reap the issues of what this could be. So, the accounting industry many moons ago was really set up as a reactive sense. So, what happened? The year finishes and you're responsible for tax returns. And now, in a lot of ways, you are responsible for your numbers and then now you're going to go somebody to prepare it. And depending on your situation is if you're going to file it on time, if you're going to file it with extension. And sometimes, even though you're ready on time, the extension process is what calls because in the real estate industry, what happens is the K1s are, it's just the number one thing that's delayed. And when we met together, um, he was going through several things that was, typical for. It's not just real estate, and it's not just him. It's just typical in the field where people hop accountants and things. And um, Pavi, when you're ready, I would love for you to share. What's your experience with how you used to handle accounting services to now? How do you think? Or maybe not, like it's okay to like, to help you, reach your business goals. Because lots of times in our experience, clients are waiting for the year end, and there's a very different way when we're implementing proactive tax planning and knowing what you're doing versus looking things in hindsight. What are your thoughts around all of this with now working together for a while and seeing how it helped you and the different experiences?
yeah. So my accounting mentality or mindset really has changed over the last 3 years because I first started off with like, oh, I can do my own books, not a big deal. And then I quickly realized that that was not the case, even though I wasn't really doing that much business in the beginning. And after that, I hired an accounting company that I was happy with, but they were not doing the tax part of the business. And it created its own challenges when the tax professionals and the accounting professionals, there was always like a broken link. So it really became work to be the middle person. So that's when I started reaching out to different accounting firms, and I ran across Margo, and I was like, this sounds like a good fit for me. And I was gonna give it a try, see how it goes, because I wanted a firm that has the ability to do both taxes and accounting for me, and take myself out of the equation as the middleman between my tax professional and my accounting professionals, and just let somebody else handle all that for me. And it's been much easier, and it's been really great to be able to have somebody on board who can say, "Let us take care of this," and say, "Okay." Thank you. So this has been a big change for me.
Watching you come out of the equation, like I got the chills thinking about it, because when a client comes in and they're really like in the weeds of everything, uh, we try to take it slower because we want clients to know that they're in control, but we work in a more team setting than necessarily just doing it for you. So there's a lot of teamwork that happens together. Now that you're out of it, how do you think it's been easier to accomplish, buying an additional, buying other real estates, uh, accomplishing your dreams, building even the electrical business? Me personally, I'll be honest, like I love the asset part, but with you, I love talking about growing the electrical business. Like that highlight for me was something I really, really loved watching too.
Yeah, so the biggest thing is time, right? Like being able to let somebody else handle my financial aspect of my businesses. Um, gave me a peace of mind to move on to next thing and focus on other areas of what I do in life, whether it's professional or personal. And having worked with you over the last 9 months, pretty much, you've pointed out some areas in my electrical business when we were working on like we need to have a little more like steady revenue, like what are your connections, how you bring more business, so I don't rely so much on the cycles of projects. So projects come in, great, there's cash flows, and then there's a slow time. So how can we ensure that there is more steady cash flow in the business? So working with you, we kind of pointed out that we gotta stabilize that a little bit, and not having to worry so much about my tax situation, my accounting situation, allow me to focus more on maybe not so much as growing business. I mean, that counts as part of it, but it was more like stabilizing the cash flows and leads coming in.
And that's what was interesting with you, is that it wasn't a lead issue in the electrical. It was more of learning to co-manage the assets with the electrical side by side, and being able to continue to buy and not wait for the ups and downs of the assets. You're basically able to enjoy them while they're growing, while still having cash flow to grow business and feed your family and all of those good things. What are your thoughts about that part? Like you were able to leave, you were able to grow, and now electrical business. Like, what would you say to somebody who is in the weeds and they're in that highs and lows of business, but they're not necessarily in a cash flow that they can feed their family, build a team, and even continue to grow with like other avenues that might just be a spin-off of all of this?
Yeah, I think there's really a lot of pieces. And the challenges are like what I've realized recently is to delegate some of the work, because we really can't do everything ourselves. Right. So one of the aspects is I've had help on several projects, both from real estate and in my electrical business. Um, and I've realized that as hard as it is, it's okay. It's a must to allow somebody else to do the work that I would want to do myself, because that allows me to focus on other things. And one of the biggest things in my life is my family. I got a 1.5 year old and a 3.5 year old at home, and I'm committed to be there. So I'm there for breakfast, dinner every time, and I come spend a couple days a week with them as well, because we committed to be at home parents and raise them at home. So learning several things like delegating, I think it's a big word in a way that people have hard time giving up, and I certainly had hard time with that, being like, I want Jimmy to handle this, and I want Bobby to handle this, and you guys need to figure it out, like this is what needs to be done. And it's more like overseeing and managing rather than actually doing the work hands on, because that's where I came from. Like my whole background is I've always done things myself for like the last almost 20 years that I've been in the electrical or kind of construction industry. I'm the one always doing the work, so it was a mindset that I had to change. So delegating and trusting other people to do the work, even if they don't do it necessarily to the standards we wish they did.
Okay, so talk more about that.
So there's um, you can find people sometimes like to try to cut corners, and I can explain something. This is what needs to happen next to get ready for an inspection. So I could do this, and that needs to be accomplished, and that means that we have to remove certain parts of, a bathroom, for example, and if we damage something, that's part of the process. We'll have to buy and replace it, but in order to do it the right way, this is what needs to happen. And then get a phone call like an hour later. What if we do it this way? It's like, no, we've been through
No,
this.
just
This is
no.
how we're gonna do it. We're not gonna try to improvise. I mean, there's times you can improvise a little bit and make things work, but when it comes to doing things right for building codes, electrical codes, and whatnot, you can't improvise. Your inspector is gonna come in and be flagging us. And the biggest thing is I found over the many years that I've been doing this is that if an inspector likes your work, he inspects it a few times and then he's always just coming in and he knows you always do a quality work and then just spot checks your work rather than really trying to take your projects apart. So do it the right way every single time. Your inspections will go away well, and you're gonna have less problems down the road or less callbacks down the road. So those are some frustrating moments sometimes when you say something, this is how it needs to be done right, and then you come back at the end of the day, it's like, what is this? Rip it, do it again. um but that's part of learning the business, part of having employees and being able to let go of control in a way, right? Like, we gotta grow.
Talk more about the
We,
control.
what's that?
Talk more about the control.
It's like I said, like I've always done things myself. Like, I always had my own standard that I followed, and letting go of the control, meaning I just gotta let somebody else do what I would normally do. And it's very difficult for somebody who's done it myself for almost 20 years to now being able to not being able having to say, somebody else is gonna do this part of the business, somebody else is gonna do this part of the work. And it's a challenge, and then you get the both sides of it. You see these are the benefits of it, the fruits of it. I get to spend time at home with my family. I can take Wednesday off and spend the whole day with my kids. And my fiance, she can work because she's self-employed too, so she can commit full day to business, growing her business. um and there's always those aspects, and it's like, I would have done it better, right? Like, but that's not the point. The point is, I am running multiple businesses. I cannot do it all myself. Having guys in the field is one aspect of it. They are the driving force day to day. I still do a lot of the hands-on electrical work myself, but my real estate is pretty much all either my maintenance guy does it or I hire a contractor to do the work. Electrical, for the most part, is still done by me. Um, so, but there's definitely benefits to it. Like I said, like, it's difficult. It's still difficult. It's been a long time that I've been doing it, but I don't have to worry about it. I can focus on growing my business. I can focus on building relationships with contractors. That's my next step for this year. I have 3 contractors now that regularly send me projects because they're happy with how I work. So it's nice to fill in, projects and then some service calls in between, kind of creates more of a steady calendar for the next few weeks. And I get to spend time at home with family.
Just take that in. Just take that in. Like, stepping away. He learned around control, he learned around delegating, and he's able to do all of this at the same time. And there's nothing better than that. I want to tap into two things here and just move this a little more forward. Can you share about when we had the conversations around pricing and learning how to price and raising your prices, and even like the processing fees and how to bill and invoicing? I would love if you can share about that.
Yeah. So one of the things, so we try to do a call with Margo every month when we sit down and review my books and what's going on. And one of the things we found was that my business was not sustainable at my previous rates. And as difficult it is to, like, for some people to see who are not running a business, there's a lot costs behind the scenes that it actually takes to operate a business between, vehicles on the road, insurance for vehicles, gas, maintenance, repairs. Then you have your office expenses, insurance, liability coverage, and everything else. So there's a lot of costs behind the scenes that that are not obvious. So we came to realize that I need to raise my pricing because my business is not being sustainable. And part of my stress at the time was I I need to work more, I need to work harder because I need to make more money to keep my business afloat, which really wasn't the case. The case was that I just wasn't charging enough for my services, and those are quality services. I've been complimented on my electrical business work quality and ethics many times by contractors, and like now I get a contractor who would call me and say, "Hey, I like how you communicate. Do you work with contractors?" I was like, "Absolutely, I do work with contractors." So that's great. I'll keep you in mind for my next project. So I don't even like this was a situation when I did not reach out to the contractor. I was hired by the homeowner directly, and he just liked how we were communicating on this kitchen project. And he's like, "I think I'd like to work with you on future projects." So having that conversation, we increased my price levels, and I realized that I wasn't overcharging by no means because I'm still getting jobs, and I'm in some aspect I'm right on par with other people, other contractors right now, because my bids are very competitive now. So I was underpricing, but I was really like cutting myself short in the past time.
What about that?
We really kind of needed to see why am I struggling, and it wasn't because I was like it just was I was not realizing how much it really takes to run a business and everything else, and that was costing me a lot of stress.
You see, knowing where to place the effort is how everything shifted. He was able to see that from the pricing, how many more things shifted, and that the accomplishments not only just started to come in and roll in, people were asking him to work with him. Like, there's nothing better than that. It's like attraction work results because he's just doing what he loves. He's getting to be with his family. Like, what better can you ask for? Um,
Yeah,
I want to talk about like at home, like how does everybody see this at home? Now that you are able to being with your kids, we have a lot of followers here who would love to be around with their kids. I'll share a little bit of a story about me. Now we're Heartfelt CFO and tax. And back in the day when I started this, we were called Margo's Bookkeeping. I was advertising as a stay-at-home mom, and I used to do the work when my baby was sleeping. And I say this to say I was around as a mom, like as a dad to do this and to have this. What would you say to others who are looking for this?
there are some sacrifices, right? um I've done it for a long time, and was we had a kind of a schedule that we followed with how many days Alyssa works, how many days I work, because our commitment was that we were not going to have daycare, we're not going to have babysitters, we're going to be at home parents, and we needed to coordinate our personal life and our work businesses between the two of us. So it's her business and personal life, and my businesses and my personal life, and how we can blend them together. So we were, for the most part, somewhat structured, somewhat coordinated. Sometimes we flip days, we flip flop days back and forth. Um, but it wasn't really enough time for what Alyssa needed. So it came to a point where one of the biggest exercises we had earlier this year, like the beginning of the year, was like, we are going to rework our schedules, and we'll time block who works when. Because one of the challenges she had, I was taking up selfishly more time than she did, but she also needs the time to grow her own time, her own business. And so what we ended up doing is like, well, I was like, so what is your goal? And then she said, well, it's like a dream. So it doesn't matter. Just say it. She's like, I want a whole day to myself, uninterrupted, no kids, no anything. So I have like a whole 8 hour, 9 hour window. I was like, deal. Put it down. And then we figured out which day of the week it's gonna work. And it's like, Monday, and Monday is her sacred day. So we're still kind of working out the little pieces of that, but we now know Monday is a sacred day for her. So starting in February, that's her day, and then she gets half a day on Wednesday, the whole afternoon, which is gonna give her about like a 5 hour window too. So she has a whole day, and then the half a 5 hours on Wednesdays, which doesn't seem like a lot because before she did have a whole day, but it was broken up with like the picking up kids from like the preschool, half day preschool. So it wasn't didn't really feel like it was a full day, right? Because it gets broken up in the middle because we have to like coordinate between the two of us to do the pickups and have a 1.5 year old at home. So somebody has to stay at home for nap times. Um, and then I'm just looking at the calendar now. She's like, "Wow, this actually like makes me feel a lot better. Like I needed this time, uninterrupted time." So, and then she gets, like I said,
I'm
whole
getting like
afternoon
the
Wednesdays
chills
more than
as
she
you say
needed.
this.
But
I'm
it
getting the
was,
chills as you say this because, like, you stepped up as a dad, as a partner. You listened to what she asked for and what she needed so that she could have her dreams. Sorry to like barge in side by side. Like, that's just the beautiful thing as a couple. What I always admired working together from the day one is that it was always around his values and his integrity around things, how it was built. And for me, lots of times with clients, it's the opposite. We have to go over what are your values and what is your integrity around the work. But hearing how you're talking about how she gets this day, but she also has that security that she knows you're right there with her.
yeah. And I say, and it's sh- communication, right? Not just in life and business, but it's communication at home too is what keeps things happier. We knew that she was frustrated with it, and it wasn't even for easy for her to say what was her dream for our new schedule. Like she was like, I don't like it. It wasn't. I'm not. Wasn't comfortable. I didn't want to do this either. But I knew it was important to do. She knew it was important to do, and it's like, what is the, what is that you want? Like, what is the thing that you really want to say it out loud, and let's see if we can make it happen. And that was it.
I love it. I
So
love it. Hearing it from the man's side for me it's just a beautiful gem. Um, okay, I want to talk about a little bit of the tax return process in the field. Um, how would you say from where you began to where it is now, being in a proactive tax planning situation versus coming from a reactive? What would you say the difference is from where you are and maybe some tips and different things of how you feel now around taxes? Like, I would imagine maybe you even hated it. Like, maybe you still hate it now. I don't know.
you probably know it pretty well. We've been through this sorting out my past taxes over the last couple of years. I have not enjoyed doing my taxes for a few years, to be honest. There's a lot of tax preparers who claim they can do it all, or they just file your taxes in the most simple, safest way for them. Um, and there's a lot of tax firms out there that promise great communication, but they don't. And then you try to get hold of them and they can't. So my experience has been, or had been, um, not pleasant the past 3 years. Misleading information, lack of communication, being said one thing, then find out the really hard way that, hey, you actually own $40,000 on taxes. No, it's $5,000, which is a really hard pillow to swallow for a small business like myself. Um, so there was a lot of like aspects where it's just like just keeps building up, and like I said last spring, but I just knew it's gonna cost me more, but it's going to be the right move to move to a firm like Margo's, where the taxes and accounting is merged under one umbrella, where I have the ability to jump on monthly calls or more often if I needed to talk books and talk taxes, and like I said earlier, like remove myself from being the middle person and make sure that somebody else is communicating behind the scenes and I don't have to worry about it. And it's been like most recent experience was my previous accounting firm. They never filed my state taxes for 2023, which I didn't know till like October of this past year. So obviously there's like
Pardon
tons
me in
of
a second, but when he's saying October of last year, he was on extension also for that year. So it was like another 6 months later when this
yeah.
all came out.
So I was way behind on everything, and it took a month for me to go back and forth with the other firm to say, basically, we can't do anything. Here's the PDF, print it, sign it, and send it in a snail mail, and good luck, essentially. And I talked to the state Department of Revenue. They say it's going to take, up to 12 weeks for us to process paper submissions for previous years. It's like, I don't want to keep collecting fines for the next 3 months, basically. So I reached out to Margo and I was like, "What do you guys think? Can you do it electronically or not?" Because the other firm said, "No, we can't do it electronically anymore. It has to be by mail." And Margo said, let us look into it. Let us take care of it." And a week later, I will get an email confirmation saying your faxes are filed and accepted. I was like, "Great!" Somebody else took forever to, like, for one, not file them, even though they said they filed them, and then takes them a month to come back to me and say, "By the way, there's nothing we can do." And I was like, "Well, that's not right." And then actually Margot's team came through and they said, "Let us see what we can do for you." And they filed it electronically, even though I was told I couldn't do it. And
I
that's
remember the day you
it's a
got that
huge piece
email.
of my stress off my mind.
I remember
So
the day you got that
good.
email. You were like,
Yeah.
wow. Like,
Well, it's a huge weight. It's like one thing, like
yeah.
I try to do things right and, paying taxes and everything else. It's like I don't want anybody like chasing me for my taxes or auditing me for any reason. That's not even my problem, not my mistake. So I always try to get things done right, and it's very frustrating when it's out of my control. So it was very relieving to be able to just let Marcos team handle that, and like I said, then have the confirmation that it's done, it's taken care of, you're up to date. Um, so that was a huge burden off my chest.
So somebody who's in the weeds right now and they were where you began and they don't really see the ceiling, they don't really see the light of how to do different. What would you just say to somebody so they can step out of this reactive circle and get into a spot where they can just start helping at home, supporting the fam, creating results, stepping out of it and not being the bottleneck? So many of our guys that are following here and women, what would you say to them so that they can take, and just take that leap of like, maybe they are doing it all still too. They couldn't reach that step of outsourcing and trying to find the right people, because obviously that's always, an issue with people. They're always worried about that. But somebody who's that beginning version, that they can really have a possibility, what could we tell them that is directly from somebody who's experiencing this of like, take the dang steps?
Yeah, yeah. So I think the first thing would be accounting. Like I thought I can do it by myself. I tried doing it for 6 months myself. At the end of the day, I really didn't save any money, right? Because then I had to hire somebody to basically redo my books, the first 6 months of my books, because they're like, well, we can do it two ways. We can try to fix what you've done, or we can start from scratch, and it's actually gonna cost you less if we just do it from beginning rather than try to fix. And the cost to hire an accounting firm, even no low cost firm, it totally worth it because it costs a lot more to have somebody come in and fix the mistakes of months that you try to do yourself. So that's one thing. Like accounting was the first mistake I realized I've made, and I should have had somebody on board from day one rather than try to do it myself. It's just too much. It's too much reconciliation. Takes hours on end to try to keep it straight, and I could never get it right. There's always something somewhere missing. Um, and the time I invested myself to try to do my books alone, I don't even know. Like I could have spent that time in much better ways, growing my businesses or spending the time with my family instead of trying to navigate the accounting myself. So it's much easier to just leave it to the professionals. So accounting is one thing. I should have done it right from day one. Saying I'm starting a business, I need somebody on board, even if it was just a transitional accounting, somebody who's gonna, at a low scale, taking it off the ground. The next thing is some creating some systems and having a schedule that you stick to. We've had schedule, but we weren't really like that committed to it because things happen. Says needs to do work on a different day. I need to do work on a different day only. So we needed to flip things around a little bit here and there. Um, but I think like what we did in January is what we needed to do, a couple years back. Like really sit down and talk the needs of each one of us and the commitments to the family, commitments to our both respective businesses. And now it's on us to stick with it, right? This is our time. We gotta respect that time for us as our family time, our business times, and just build systems of like what do we do every day for us ourselves and what do we do for us every day for our businesses. So it's like some notes we have like time to like some well-being, like what is that going to be? It doesn't matter what it's going to be. It's important that you have 15 minutes to exercise or do yoga or something like that. And that's something we've been missing out on for the past 2 3 years. Like a little bit here and there doesn't really cut it. But if we like build it into our weekly calendar and we hold each other accountable, this is what's going to make the difference, the consistency. And it's going to be difficult, obviously, to change from kind of the chaos that we've had to now, already, even though we haven't really implemented it yet, we are already kind of molding into this new schedule, and staying, a little more like structure in our weekly days. So accounting, systems, and time blocking
The
or
talk at home.
scheduling. Hmm?
The talk at home.
Yeah. Yeah, communicating. Like if you don't have a partner at home who supports you and vice versa, like you're just gonna go home and be miserable, right? But if we can go home, the we all kind of understand where each other's businesses are and frustrations, and that's the big part. Like, let's talk. So communication at home is important, making sure that we support each other.
Love it.
Sometimes we don't talk a lot, but that doesn't mean that we hate each other. It's just like a lot on our minds, and we like, okay, this is fine. Sometimes we talk a lot because we are venting out, but we understand, we know what's going on in our businesses in our daily lives. So it's been a good synergy.
So what's next? What's next for Pavi? What's coming up? What's
Um,
next?
I think with where I'm at today, right now, I'm looking to hire a permanent helper for my electrical business,
Okay.
and looking to connect with probably two more contractors that feed me regular projects. So then I don't have to like ever have those stressful full moments when it's like, oh, I don't have any work schedule for next week. And the phone always rings. Like it's been amazingly well that as close as it got to a point where I don't have work coming in my electrical business, the phone rings and there's work. But I want to make it so my calendar is not like what's next for next week. It's I want to be like what's next for 3 weeks from now. So I think I can make that happen if I can make a couple more connections, good relationships with other general contractors and builders who can kind of give me those small projects 2 3 times a month, and fill in the gaps between service calls. And I think that would be nice kind of a balance when I can still keep my flexible schedule with times to commitment to family time and also to real estate. And as far as real estate, big goal, I'd like to do 2 more acquisitions this year. um, and we're looking at small multifamilies, and if we can do 2 more acquisitions, I might actually hire somebody full time for my real estate as well to kind of take the maintenance and calls off my plate as well and just let somebody else pick up the call and go and take care of the maintenance calls.
So, assuming you're listening to this at some point, if you have any of this, feel free to let us know. Sharing is caring, and that's what this community is about, is the network connections of if you're a contractor and you can appreciate or want to build relationships. I would love for you to reach out to Pavi, because what I'll say is like this is that it's not all the time, it's just a matter of the relationships. It's somebody that you could rely on, like he was talking about, that's actually doing the work. And you can see how he built the team and is continuing to, because that's a work in progress, that that's where it's at, that you can rely on him for that. So before we close this, is there anything more you want to share, maybe about the accounting and tax process, or just in general to help people so that they're out of the weeds and more into like flow, living life, family tips on that talk, which is just
Yeah, yeah. No, I said my first biggest thing was getting my accounting and straight in line with my businesses. I was mistake I made in the beginning, and it was such a relief to have somebody on board just taking care of my accounting. So whatever you do, get accounting done by professionals, then taxes and all that stuff, and make sure you communicate with home with your family and continue to build relationships, out business relationships. Also, your relationship at home has to be strong as well. So and stick with it.
and stick with it. I love that. From myself and of course the HCT team, we love watching you grow. We are grateful to work with you. Thank you for coming on. Thank you for sharing your story. Sharing is caring in another way, and we want to help others. So that's it for today. I hope you enjoyed this all. As always, any questions, let me know. Share your topics, share what you're, anything that you have in terms of feedback, and we will see you next week. Bye. Have a good day.
Right?